بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا الشمس كورت وإذا النجوم انكدرت وإذا وإذا الوحوش حشرت وإذا البحار سجرت وإذا النفوس زوجت وإذا النفوس زوجت وإذا الموءودة سئلت بأي ذنب قتلت وإذا الصحف نشرت وإذا السماء كشطت وإذا الجحيم سعرت وإذا الجنة أزلفت علمت نفس ما أحضرت فلا أقسم بالخنس الجوار الكنس والليل إذا عسعس والصبح إذا تنفس إنه قول رسول كريم فلا أقسم بالخنس الجوار الكنس والليل إذا عسعس والصبح إذا تنفس إنه لقول رسول كريم ذي قوة عند ذي العرش مكين مطاع وما صاحبكم بمجنون ولقد رآه بالأفق المبين وما هو على الغيب بضنين وما هو بقول شيطان رجيم فأين تذهبون إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين لمن شاء منكم أن يستقيم وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله صدق الله العظيم.
اللهم صل على
चलो
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل على أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بلد ضعفا فقلت له أريدك بالله يا أبتاه من الله فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني وغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه القدر في ليلة تمام وكمال.
اللهم صل على محمد.
ما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن فدخل قال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فاقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله فتعذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب قلبي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على محمد.
ما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بي ولدي الحسين وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها راية جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله أتعسني أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شعب أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهم تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على
فقال عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها وما عليك قال عليك تحت الكساء فقال علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله تعتمدي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب رواي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتعتن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء.
اللهم صل على
محمد جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرم لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم واجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على
يا ملائكة يا سكان السماوات، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدنية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال عم جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ وقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعين الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها ورحمها وبنوها.
اللهم صل على
فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتعذر لي أن أحدث إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا. فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فخرج العبد جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أيها الأعلى يطلق السلام وتصفى بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك عزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا ملهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا ليذكركم محبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فلتعذن لي يا رسول الله. فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وهي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس وأهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من فضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفعني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفظهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلا أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي ضم الله خذنا فبعث شيعتنا رب الكعبة. فقال النبي الثانية يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واستقرني بالرسالة نجيا ما ترى خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض ففيه جمع من شيعتنا محبين فيهم محموم إلا فرض الله محمد ولا مغفور إلا وكشف الله همه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. وقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فأتوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
صل على
मुमिनीन आप सबसे गुजारिश है जो हजरात बाहर खड़े हुए हैं अंदर आ जाएं। आगाज हो चुका है इंशाल्लाह मस्जिद पानी का आगाज हो रहा है। Everybody who is standing outside please come in the main tent with a loud salawat.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
درود भेजे मोहम्मद और आले बच गया के नरगे से ये प्यारा बच गया जुल्म के नरगे से ये प्यारा आ गया बेकसो मुझतर का सारा उंगलियां थाम के ज़ैनब की पसे कर वो उंगलियां थाम के ज़ैनब की पसे कर वो कर आया मदीने में दोबारा बच गया जुल्म के मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो एक रहमत एक नेमत एक जान इंसान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो क्या चुप कर नबी के दोष पर है मुर्तजा क्या कभी देखे नहीं ऊपर तले कुरान को मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो जिस तरह काटे अली की तेग ने इंसाफ से इस तरह होते नहीं देखे कभी इंसान को मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो आले मद की मिला हो और अमल कुरान पर बस यही काफी है बख्शिश के लिए सामान दो दुरूद भेजिए मोहम्मद शान दो अर्श पर अहमद गए काबे में उतरे मुर्तजा सारे आलम में यही हक के हुए मेहमान दो सारे आलम में यही हक के हुए मेहमान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो अपने से एक मसहफे साबित बयाबर को दिया और पत्नी फातिमा को बोलते कुरान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो जितनी मुमकिन हो सके कर लो हकीम से मोतबर नहीं सकता शरीयत एक हो फरमान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो रोक दे क्या अहमदो हैदर को असना में काफिर हो तो काफी साहिब ईमान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा अल्लाह की है शान दो मुस्तफा और मुर्तजा शहादत की मुनासिबत से मर्सी के चंदन है फातिहा अज़ीज़ो ज़ैनबे तरकाज मातम है अज़ीज़ो ज़ैनबे है तरकाज मातम है नबी की लाडली दोतर का आज मातम है गरीब शाह की खारगाह गरीब शाह की खारगाह आज मातम है सुकून क़ल्बे खुदा के हबीब को दीजिए बहन का पुरसा हुसैन गरीब बहन का पुरसा हुसैन गरीब को दोबारा कैद हुए जबकि सैयद सज्जाद असीर करते हुए शाम ले गए जलाद रवाना सा तूवी हाय ज़ैनब नाशा नबी के रोज़े अक़द पे जा नबी के रोज़े अक़द पे जा शहीद हो गया भाई हुसैन नाना मगर नहीं है लईनों को चैन, मगर नहीं है लईनों को चैन। सदाए अहमदे मुरसल ये आई है प्यारी, हजार जब्त से लेका मेरी दुखियारी, हमारी आह भी है तेरी आह पर जारी। फिर आज कांपता है अर्श का, फिर आज कांपता है अर्श का। हसन हुसैन अली ओ बतूल को लेकर निकल रहा हूँ जिना से अभी, निकल रहा हूँ जिना से अभी। मेरी ये सुन के उठ के गई फातिमा के रोज़े पर, लिपट के खबर से कहने लगी ये खस्ता जिगर, उठो उठो मेरी अम्मा के आई है दोस्तर, असीर हो गया फिर मेरा, असीर हो गया फिर मेरा। तमाम घर को उजाड़ा मगर न चैन आया, दोबारा सैयद सज्जाद, दोबारा सैयद सज्जाद पर सितम आया। सदाए नोहे ज़हरा लहद से आने लगी, किसी नबी ने भी ऐसी जवान नहीं देखी, निसार माँ तेरी मजलूमियत की है बेटी, तड़प रही हूँ मैं मेरे दर्द, तड़प रही हूँ मैं मेरे दर्द की मारी। मैं साथ चलती हूँ ऐ जाने ज़ैनबे मुस्कर, ना बिलबिला तेरे कुर्बान, ना बिलबिला तेरे कुर्बान। ज़ैनबे रवाना हो गई फिर सूए शाम वावेला, खामोश रोते थे चाहते इमाम बावेला, नहीं रवाना हुए तेज काम बावेला। अजीज करते थे मातम तमा, अजीज करते थे मातम तमा। लिखा है राह में एक मंजिल करीब आई, बतूल ज़ादी की है क़ज़ा, बतूल ज़ादी की है क़ज़ा। करीब आई नज़र ख़ुदा की नागाह उस शजर पे पड़ी, कि जिस पे देखा था फर्ज़े हुसैन इब्ने अली, तड़प के हाय हुसैना कहा ज़मीन पे गिरी, उठी संभल के तो फरियाद, उठी संभल के तो फरियाद। शजर कहाँ है भाई मेरा शजर बता जल्दी, हुसैन के लिए रो शहे करबो बला पढ़ी रोकर नमाज पढ़ने लगी फिर करीब तेर शजर अभी उठाया न था हाय हाय अभी उठाया न था हाय हाय सद सितम से बेचा इब्ने तमीम ने मारा लहू मुसल्ले पे कस का है लहू मुसल्ले पे कस का है तू का देश है और हाय जाबलम ज़बान से बात भी करती नहीं है अब ज़ैनब चली जहां से उठाए कई तब ज़ैनब सरे शिकाब का ही लेके सो सरे शिकाब का ही लेके सो है पुतलियां बेहोश हो गई बीबी बुढ़ाओ काट खामोश हो बुढ़ाओ काट खामोश हो हुसैन वालों बताओ किधर गई ज़ैनब उठा के जुल्मों सितम कूच कर गई ज़ैनब मुसाफिरत में जहां से गुजर गई ज़ैनब हजार है कि गुर्बत में मार हजार है कि गुर्बत में मार गई ज़ैनब बसे ताबीद मुझतर है खाक उड़ाने को हुसैन आ गए मरकत से लाल हुसैन आ गए मरकत से लाल ये को
I mean, just a brief announcement, inshallah. Our next program at will be this Tuesday night at with Namaz Maghrib, and since it's getting a little cold at night time and we're doing outdoor programs, so we'll be right with Namaz Maghrib, inshallah. So please join us at Namaz Maghrib Jamaat prayers, and right after that, this here on site. And Maulana Muhibullah will be here next Tuesday at 7:30. Can you get the echo down a little bit, please? Inshallah, this Tuesday at 7:30, 7 o'clock with the Maghrib, inshallah. And the Thursday night will be our last majlis for Safar, 7th of Muhibullah. Shahadat al-Muhammad Askari alayhi salatu wassalam. Inshallah, after Jafar will be reciting that majlis, will be on online, but will be on-site programs. So please join us for both programs, Tuesday and Thursday night. And before I request Maulana to start the speech, just a reminder, we are doing presentations and lesser, and alhamdulillah, all of you are very generous. We will continue our fundraiser. And inshallah, if you could donate anything, please contact myself in Pen and Sister Sabina Jafar. And for all the details of the program, feel free to contact me or Sister Sabina Jafar, inshallah. And you can post it on WhatsApp, inshallah. Please, we are honored to have Maulana Jafar Muhibullah with us this weekend. This topic is amazing. About Zainab, of course, for this weekend, her resilience and how she was so patient throughout her
So please recite loud salawat Maulana Jafar. No. Again, from the well-being of the mu'mineen, Muhammad, salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Leave the mother salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad for the history and appearance of Imam Zaman. Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم به نستعين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكري وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فلا. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع والنقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا وإنا إليه راجعون. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First and foremost, I give my condolences to all of you on the occasion which we are commemorating, and that is the Wafat or Shahadat of Bibi Zainab Sallallahu Alaiha. As a topic, we have chosen mental toughness, mental strength, and resilience, a quality that we see in Zainab al-Kubra Sallallahu Alaiha. Of course, we see this in all of the Ahlul Bayt, but since we're speaking about Zainab, we're showing how she is that symbol of mental strength, how she is that symbol of resilience. Of course, I guess as tradition, at least as I was told in one of the majlis, want to describe the fada'il of Bibi Zainab Sallallahu Alaiha. And as we mentioned, there are many things that we can look at the life of Bibi Zainab Sallallahu Alaiha and point out these fada'ils. A fada'il, which means the good qualities and characteristics and traits. And inshallah, we'll do that. We'll kind of focus a little bit more on those fada'il, those traits and those qualities that Zainab Sallallahu Alaiha had. But I want to parallel them with this idea and this concept of mental strength and mental toughness. In fact, with 5 habits, they said that we should try to have in order to build our mental resilience and strength and toughness. So I want to relate her fada'il to that. But just quickly, what are some of those fada'il? I'll explain it a little bit more as we go over these kind of 5 habits. So one is, as we know that Zainab Sallallahu Alaiha, that she is the daughter of the Prophet Rasulullah. As we say in her ziyarat, Salamu alayki ya binti Rasulullah, meaning that she is from that nasl of Rasulullah. So that household she grew up in, as we often Baytul Wahi, in which Quran was revealed. And this is why we see that Zainab sallallahu alayha, like her mother, like her father, like her brothers, that she was also one of the mufassirs of the Quran, one of those who taught the Quran, taught the meaning of the Quran. Zainab al-Kubra, again, another one of her fada'il is that she's the daughter of Ali and Fatima. She's, again, in that house, that house of Isma. Again, we don't say that Zainab, and this is one of the things we have to really understand, and it puts it into perspective for us as well. Right? Often some say that, oh, you know what, when we give examples of the Ahlul Bayt, we say that, you gave an example of someone who's like the Prophet, someone like Imam Ali, Fatima, Zahra, Imam Hassan, Hussein. So these are ma'soom. We say that, build our character after them, and we say, give us an example that we can relate to, someone who's not ma'soom. At least from the aspect of Aqidah, that Zainab sallallahu alayha, we don't include her as one of those ma'soom, those 14 ma'soom. We don't include her. Meaning that it is not a part of our Aqidah that, oh, we have to believe that she is ma'soom, and then if we don't believe that she's ma'soomah, then it goes against her. No. However, Zainab al-Kubra, salamu alayha, and I want to explain this because we need to also understand this idea and concept of isma and what kind of isma is. So, isma, or someone being ma'soom, meaning they're safeguarded from sins or mistakes and things like that. Some of our ulama, especially who are inclined to what they call irfan or spiritual development, they say, yeah, there are two types of isma. One, on one hand, we're all born ma'soom. Because as a baby, we don't sin. We don't disobey Allah. But when we reach this age of taklif, where now we are responsible for our actions, at that moment we fall back and we lose that isma, we lose that innocence about ourselves. The ma'soom, on the other hand, once they get to that age of isma, they maintain their isma for their entire life. Before they're born, or at that moment that they're born, when they become to the age of maturity and we have taklif, responsibility, and then to their death, they maintain that isma. Someone like Zainab al-Kubra, sallallahu alayha, as I said, in our theology, we don't include her among these 14 individuals who have maintained that. No, we have to believe this. However, Zainab al-Kubra, sallallahu alayha, we can say with confidence, especially if we look at her life and we examine her life, yes, she maintained her isma. So what is the difference between that isma that she had and the isma of the 14 months? So some of our, they will explain that, well, there's, in addition to that isma, or that person ma'asum, like the Prophet and like the Fatima the Zahra, and like the 12 Imams, they say that there's another type of isma. And they say that this isma is one that is maqsood. This is one that is acquired. This is one that is achieved. This is one that is maintained. And it is maintained through our actions, through what we do, through our striving. I'll give you an example because, yes, we are also able to achieve this. And this is why, for one reason, that Zainab al-Kubra, sallallahu alayha, she is a great example for us to look at, because no one can say, oh, well, why are you giving me this example of the ma'soom? And, you know, I'm not ma'soom, I make mistakes. And Zainab sallallahu, she's not ma'soom in that sense, that theological sense that we believe, but she maintained her innocence. How did she do that? One part of it is through this mental resilience and strength. So that's isma that is acquired and is achieved I'm just going to give this, I'll give two examples of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He tells us so that we understand that this is not impossible. It's quite often you get this idea that, oh, well, it's impossible to do that. And then we don't even begin to strive. No, it is possible. One example is the Hajj. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated that if a person goes and performs the Hajj and they perform that Hajj the way they should perform that Hajj, being conscious of their actions and what they're doing and to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that when a person walks away from that Hajj, then all of their deeds have been wiped clean and they start over with a clean slate. This is isma. This is an acquired isma, that if you didn't have isma before, now after that Hajj, you have it. Now the challenge is to maintain that isma. But if we don't have mental strength and resilience to carry forward in the face of the challenges, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, what are those challenges? Al-khawf, fear. Well, jua, hunger. So there may be something, you're afraid of this thing, and are you going to maintain your deen, or are you going to pretend that, oh, I'm not Muslim? You have to maintain that resilience. So you can gain isma. You all can. The second, and this is for those who may say, oh, unfortunately, maybe I haven't reached that requirement to go to Hajj. The second one, yes, it is, what is it? No, not private prayers. Is Ramadan. Fasting. Again, another moment that when we look to the riwayat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says a person that fasts for the month of Ramadan, and they fast the way they should fast, not just simply the fast of hunger that I didn't eat anything or drink anything before Fajr, and now I'm waiting. Oh, when is Maghrib coming? So that I can eat. No, that fasting, which yes, you're not eating or drinking, that fasting which your eyes are fasting, not looking towards those things which you should not look at, that fasting where your ears are fasting, not listening to things you should not be listening to, that fasting where your tongue is fasting, not saying those things that you should not say, that fasting with your hands and your arms, your legs, your whole body is fasting, abstaining from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, abstaining from those things which are haram. The Prophet of Allah, he says that person who fasts makes that true fast. So on the day of Eid, then that person's sins, all of them are wiped away. That is isma. That is isma. So it's something that we all can achieve. Don't think that, Ma'sumin are here and we here. Yes, the Ma'sumin are way up here, but we can walk in their footsteps. We can gain a type of isma, and that's what they're calling us towards. That is the example that we have before us. And that is also why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says in those circumstances, and he says it particularly also about the Hajj, when Muslim is forgiving all one sin. He said the worst sin that a person can do after that is to think that, oh, well, maybe I did something that Allah will not forgive me. Maybe I did something He won't forgive me. Prophet of Allah says, no, don't think that. But unfortunately, sometimes we have to wait till maybe someone in the West writes a book about positive thinking. Say, oh, well, no, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years ago, they told us that, listen, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wipes your slate clean, never think that you've done something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not forgiven you. Never think that. Take that moment and move forward. What builds that for us, that mental toughness, that resilience, is our patience. Because Not sure how many of you have done the Hajj. Unfortunately, I haven't yet, but just to know about that Hajj, like, yes, you need patience to make it through all of those emails. Running back from Safar Marra during the Tawaf. It's exhausting. With fasting as well, patience. It takes patience. And the measure of patience as well, sabr is what irada, as they say, willpower. It builds your willpower. So what are those 5 habits that we should develop in order to maintain or even to strengthen our mental resistance and toughness? First, says that we should look at our past. We should look at our life. We should constantly do this. Review, hey, where are we at today? Where have we come from? What are all those things that we dealt with in our past? But somehow we made it through it and we're here today. When we do this, this helps us to face the challenges that we will face in life, in our future. One thing that we have to remember, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, and I'll say that, mashallah, I've experienced this personally, that where some issues came up, some difficulties came up before me, and I realized that, well, this issue, this difficulty is similar to one that I faced at the time. It was almost, this is 20 years ago. Some of it 30 years ago. What is the secret behind that? One, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. He will not try a soul, a person, except for what that soul can handle, what it can deal with. Al-ibtila, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in verse 155 of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. Al-ibtila is also a test. It's taklif. And Allah says, well, لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to try you with that khawf, with that fear. He's going to try you with that hunger. He's going to try you with نَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. He's going to try you with, financial troubles, loss of life, what seems to be failure. But know that it will be only what you can bear. And why is it what you can bear? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is putting things in your path that you can borrow from, you can take from in order to deal with those challenges and those troubles. And by dealing with them, yes, you grow also spiritually. So Allah's going to test you, but to the measure that you can bear. The test that I have, you won't be able to bear it. The test that you have, I won't be able to bear it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what each of us can be. And He's going to test us with that. But as He knows that what each of us can bear, He's also giving us what we can use in our life in order to face that challenge. Let me give you one example from the life of Zainab al-Kubra, since we're speaking about her. Zainab al-Kubra, the daughter of Ali and Fatima. Zainab al-Kubra, of course, we perhaps remember the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra with regards to Falak al-Masjid. The narrator of this khutbah is Zainab al-Kubra. According to the historical accounts, that she was a 6-year-old girl. She was one of those individuals who was there. She heard the khutbah of her mother. And she understood that. Some scholars even analyze this and say, oh, well, perhaps, could be based on 2 things. One, that she had a very strong memory. And some people do, and of course, at the time, Arabs were known to have a very strong memory as well. Another scenario that they say that, well, because she understood her fahm, her understanding and perception was strong, which that is definitely one, because again, among those fadilat of Zainab sallallahu alayha, she's called Aqila. Or as Imam Zain al-Abidin called it, Mu'allama Ghayru, Alima Ghayru Mu'allama, that she is someone who is knowledgeable, that didn't need teachers. So Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayha, you see that having that khutbah of her mother, understanding that khutbah, understanding the circumstances in which her mother, what she was dealing with, and the Masjid of Rasulullah with regards to her rights, the fadak. Now we see, fast forward a little bit in the life of Zainab. Kufa, when she stood and she gave the khutbah there. Or in Sham, in Damascus, when again she's in the face of Yazid, the Khalifa, and giving her khutbah there. And she was prepared for that. The khutbah I mentioned yesterday, of Imam Ali al-Hafiz, khutbah number 98 or 97, depending on which print of Nahjullah you have, when Imam Ali al-Salam, he says, فَإِذَا ابْتَلَيْتُمْ فَاصْبِرُوا. So if you are you face any calamities, any trials, then be patient. That khutbah, in it, Imam Ali al-Salam, he explains, or he's talking about the oppression of Bani Umayyah. That what they have done. And of course, Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayha, she's also privy to that khutbah. She's privy to understanding that what is this challenge before us? Because again, Bani Umayyah were ruling at the time. Yazid is part of Bani Umayyah. So she understands, again, the thinking of Bani Umayyah. One of those things that Imam Ali al-Hafiz, he states there, is that if you look at the Bani Umayyah, that the oppression that they've done, to the point that they have made those things which are haram, they brought it to the status of being halal. Just one example, as it's related to the life of Zainab. This is related to the tragedy of Karbala. And that is the burial. It is incumbent, if you look at our Sharia, it is incumbent, it is wajib. And perhaps all know this, wajib what? Kifai. Is wajib upon everyone. If someone passes away, then it becomes obligatory on all of us to bury this body. And only until enough people stand up, whether it's one person that needs to stand up, 2 or 3 that stands up to go and to give ghusl, kafan, or whatever, and to bury this body, then that obligation remains in Karbala. What happened to the bodies of the shuhada? What happened to the obligation? What happened? They left their bodies. But the historical account is that the Bani Umayyah, they buried their dead soldiers and left the bodies of the shuhada. What happened to this obligation? Just so that we are clear about this obligation, the obligation is not that, oh, well, if a Muslim dies and we were obligated to bury the Muslim. If anyone dies. And I always say this, that even if in this city, if someone, even a person who's atheist, if they die and no one was burying them, that obligation still becomes on our shoulder. Hey, we have to bury this body. Yes, the salat over the body may differ, but the obligation to bury is there. So again, that habit, first habit we should build in order to build our mental strength and resilience to face the trials that we will have in our life, that maybe we're facing now or that we will face in the future. Again, examine ourselves, examine our lives, examine our past. What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has equipped me with in order to deal with this test that I'm having now? And if we do this, if we reflect, in addition to that, saying that we will see that yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us what we need in order to move forward. The second habit that we should build is again evaluating kind of negative thoughts or negative responses. Remove those from ourselves. As I showed you that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. With regards to the Hajj, that if you make Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wipes your slate clean. Listen, you're starting afresh. This is why are you thinking of something negative, that you've done something so bad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive? No, Allah is going to forgive everything. This is what the promise is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. He says, and the worst thing to do is have that thought of negativity. Another very beautiful example, I gave this before in some scraps to listen to my speech elsewhere, but this is a very good example. But this is with an individual by the name of, or he's called Zuhri, Muhammad ibn Muslim ibn Shahab Zuhri. And this is one person who, he actually worked for the Umayyads. He was one of the opinions of the Umayyads. And, also around this time period, during the life of Zayn ibn Abidin, and so for the Umayyads, he was punishing someone for something that they did. And this person he punished died. After some time, Zuhri, he became, he developed this kind of anxiety over this. Well, I was punishing him. That's what was intended, but I didn't intend for him to die. So he became upset over this. Of course, they didn't care. Okay, yeah, you chose your punishment. You punished him. He died. Okay, so what? But his conscience got he left from his family. He left from interacting in society. We could say he developed this kind of social anxiety. And he lived in a cave for 9 years, almost an entire decade. He lived in this cave. And then once he decided to, after 9 years, let me probably make Hajj or something. So when he came to Hajj, Imam Zayn al-Abidin when Imam Zayn al-Abidin saw Zuhri, again, Zuhri, and this is the estimate of the Imam, he has knowledge of things. So he saw Zuhri, and he says, Zuhri, he said, listen, he says, the family of the person that you killed, says, you go give them the diya, you pay them diya. And then he says, and then leave out of this cave, return back to your family, take care of your family. He says, then the third thing, he says, and then you go and you find someone who's going to teach you your deen. This Zuhri, once he heard this, he said, he says, Ya Rasulullah, you've saved me. And he says, and truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed his Rasala in the White House. And he became one of the close followers of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. Went from being a follower of Bani Umayyah to follower of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. But here the point what I want to make is this, the negative thinking, because what Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he said to him, he says, listen, he says, أخاف عليك يأسك أكثر من أخاف عليك من ذنبك. He says, what bothers me the most, or what scares me the most about you, and this is before he became a follower of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says, this is your negative thoughts, and yet your hopelessness. He says, this is worse than your sin, that you killed this person. Because as long as you have that hope, as long as you have that positive thing, again, you're going to move forward to deal with whatever difficulties you have. Zuhri, this social anxiety he had, he killed this person, he didn't want to deal with anyone. So, no, listen, if you continue with that, yes, you're going to be living in a cave for the rest of your life and not fulfilling your duty, your responsibilities in that social life. You're going to just be there. So Imam Zayn, he says, that is worse than the sin that you've done. So come out of that. Come out of that negative thinking. And one of the things that will also help us, and unfortunately yesterday wasn't feeling too well, but one of the things I wanted to make as well, this dua that we recite at the end of the Ziyarat of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, which are also related to delayed gratification, which we have to have. We can't be these individuals saying, oh, hey, I have this trouble or this difficulty, that, oh, instantly I should get out of this, or hey, I'm making all these du'as and du'as and du'as, and then, Allah, how come you're not taking me out of this thing? Sabr, patience. Develop these habits and also have patience. But this du'a that we recite, where we say, when we ask for our needs, our hajat, we say, وَلَا تُخَيِّبْ دُعَائِي وَأَرِّفْنِي الْإِجَابَةِ. This also, it helps us with that. At least understanding the philosophy behind this. Because, I've spoken with many people, and like I said, many people, they ask the Maulana to offer this, to offer that. And then some say, oh, yeah, I've read this dua for 40 days, and, how come Allah has not answered me? The philosophy of this, right? And again, these ziyarats are taught to us by the Ahlul Bayt. That latter part, وَأَرِّفْنِي الْإِجَابَةِ. So, simple words, but the meaning is so. Why? Because quite often when we make dua and we have something in our mind for our need and what we want, also be like, oh, how I want it like this, like this, like this, like this. Maybe exactly like that's not what is good for us. Allah knows what's good for us. But we say, no, Allah, it has to be this. This doesn't go. Oh, I need I need a Benz. It has to be blue. It has to have this. And the interior should be this. Allah says, no, that's not good for me. This is good for you. Instead of getting the Benz, you'll get a Honda. So one of the things we have to understand is, oh Allah, arrafni al-ijaba, that how have you answered my needs? That yes, I have this need, I have this haja, I'm facing with this difficulty, and I want to get out of it in one way. MashaAllah, subhanAllah, and I think it's one of the stories I've seen this, that someone was having a difference. Oh, come help me. It's a mashina, counseling with them. Okay, okay. Well, here's your opening. This is your way out of this difficulty. It's right there. No, it shouldn't be that way. I need to have this. SubhanAllah, Allah is giving you a way. It's open. But they want it to be in a particular way, a particular fashion, just the way they want it, 100%, which, as I said, quite often is not the best thing. And so they forego that solution, which is a good solution. And now we are in that difficulty and problem. Many sign that they wanted a home, they wanted a place, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent revelation to Musa alayhi salam. He says, oh, well, go into this town, go into this city, there's an oppressor there, go and you remove this oppressor. Yeah, you may have to fight because he's not going to give it up easy. Not difficult, right? But Allah says, I am with you. You will succeed. Remove the oppressor, and this will be your home. Allah says, I'm with you. Go through that challenge, go through that difficulty, and know that I'm with you. What was the response of Bani Israel? Although they wanted a home, they said, no, we got to have a place. We can't keep roaming around in the wilderness. They told Musa, oh, Musa, why don't you and your Lord go in, you remove the oppressor. Then you'll come. You were given the solution. You didn't take it. So, عرفني الإجابة. والله عرفني الإجابة. إن we build that mental resilience, patience through those trials and those difficulties. Keep our eyes open for how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also guiding us out of that difficulty. And don't turn that solution down. Allah's given us a way. We've turned away from it. And from again, life, time is getting very short. From the life of Zainab, just to give an example, just very quick, but not that there was any negative thoughts that are there, but as we know that Zainab Kubra throughout that journey, that especially like in Kufa and Sham, when people were trying to give food, again, she wasn't fear. Allah's going to touch you up with what? Shay'in min al-khawfi wal-ju', with hunger. A lot of times, sometimes, even a question in my mind, they went to Kufa and people were trying to give them things, and Zainab al-Kubra was like, no, we don't want that because you were giving it as sadaqah. Sadaqah is happiness. But what did they take? What did they try? Usually this is a void that's missing in our So there's an instance where one woman, she came and she had food and she had water to Zainab and for the after bait. And then Zainab said that no, we're not going to take this because we don't take sadaqah. And so this woman, she said that, well, this is not sadaqah, but this is another. This is an oath and a vow that I've had, that I made since I was a young girl. Again, this comes into the fadilat of Zainab sallallahu alayhi, that she is the sister of Imam Hassan. So Zainab answered, she says, what is this another and why is this another? She said, when I was a young girl, I was ill, very ill. But even I thought that, my parents thought that I wouldn't live. So my parents took me to the house of Muhibullah to have him to make dua for Shafar. Rasulullah told us to go to the house of Fatima. Says you'll find the Shafar there. So we went to the house of Fatima and Ali. So I was a young girl. We went to this house and we asked Fatima sallallahu alayha for Shafar. Ya Fatima, make dua for us. Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha, she looked towards Imam Hussein. She says, Ya Hussein, this is my son. Go to him. And again, Imam Hussein was still a young kid at the time. As she asked Imam Hussein, he says, just put your hand on her head for Shafar. And so Imam Hussein did this. When it's in life, in this young girl, she found Shafar. Then later she came to know about the story of the Ahlul Bayt, that when the prisoner, when the person who was stranded, they came to the Ahlul Bayt and they gave food. So then she made this vow that anyone who is a prisoner, who is a seer, who is stranded, that if they come, if I encounter them, then I will give them food. So she told Zayd this story, and she gave the food. At the time she told the story, she didn't know that this was Zainab al-Kubra, because again, she was simply a young girl when this happened, and she didn't really have much encounter. And Zainab al-Kubra, she says, oh, that my brother, he is giving you Shafar. But look what the Ummah has done to my brother. Take his head. He's placed his hand on your head for Shafar, but they take his head from his body. When this woman heard this and she realized that what had happened is that she had cried profusely and fainted. But this fadila comes from the Ahlul Bayt. The fourth habit that we need to practice, inshallah, just mentioned it yesterday, so we're not going to emphasize too much, but it's to have that gratitude. Have gratitude towards Allah. That what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for you, again, looking at our past, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually prepared us for whatever we're facing now, whatever we will face in the future. That test, as it says, it's not going to be more than you can bear, more than you can handle. But quite often in that moment, we don't think about that. We just think about, oh, this is difficult, this is hard. We're not thinking about this. Well, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepare you for that? Prepare for this. If we have that gratitude, as Imam Ali says, Nahmidullah ala jami'i ma fa'ala bina wa ma'ana. So we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on whatever He has done for us, with us, or pushing us towards that, or whatever He's kind of held us back from because it was not good for us. Having that type of gratitude, we will face any challenge. Where do we see this in the life of Zainab? When she sees the lost Shafiq Hussein, when she sees the body of Imam Hussein, what does she say? Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-Qurban. Oh Allah, accept the sacrifice you have given to us. That even for something so difficult, so tragic, Zainab, she says, oh Allah, accept this from us. That she's grateful that oh, we are going through this tragedy, we're going through this difficulty, because one of also the things that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, the greater your iman, the greater your testimony. That if your iman is strong, then your test will be strong. Why? Because even after that test, your iman will grow. Meaning that also from these trials and tests that we have, the fear that we have. Well, if our financial difficulties, everything, this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what it's supposed to do, the natija of that is what? That we build and we strengthen our iman. And the test, if we build our iman, yes, the test will be a more difficult test next time. But that test will still be within what? Our parameters. He's going to give us what we can bear. But it may be difficult, more difficult next time. But we can bear it. He's equipped us with this. And know that, again, every fear that we have, there's a solution. Every challenge that we have, there's a solution. The fifth is to build that tolerance, building our tolerance, our irada, our willpower. And those things which builds our willpower, again, is having patience. And we mentioned that patience, according to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, three types. Is sabrun ala al-musiba, so be patient in the face of calamities, trials, and difficulties. Sabrun ala al-ta'a, patience with regards to our obedience. Sometimes we definitely have to wake up for Salatul Fajr. I'm going to use this example because I've had people coming, you're not going to work early in the morning, and sometimes it's just difficult for me to wake up early in the morning at 5 o'clock. If we start at 5 o'clock, and then my sleep is now disrupted, and so it's sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. Sabrun ala ta. This builds our willpower, our obedience to Allah. Having patience to go through those things which we have to go through them, it's not really difficult. But it makes us consistent. It builds our love Ustad Marhum Hassan Zara Amali. that he passed away recently, just the day before Maulana, means that one of the things he said we should pass it, he said you should have istiqama on that. You should concentrate. This is stay with. This is a person you want to build your spirituality. Again, if you want to build your willpower, stay in the will. Stay in the will. Stay in that state in which you're at least have some sort of consciousness that, oh, I'm in a state of purity of tahar. Build that willpower. Slowly build. Again, the salat. Those ibadat that we have to build our willpower. This is another advice from me because it is useful. Because we all often say about concentration in salat. He says, why does your salat have to be monotonous? Sometimes we pray, our salat becomes monotonous. Like we recite the same dhikr in ruku every time, every salat. The same dhikr in sajda every time, every salat. Isn't so much so that it becomes so habitual that when we're reciting it, our mind is not even on what we're saying. It's just like swallow. It's like it's not gonna. He says, why not change it up? So one time we recite subhanallah 3 times. Next time it's subhanallah 3 times and Allahu subhanahu. So subhana rabbil azim wa bihamdi subhanallah subhanallah. He says when you change it up, this is what that does. It gives you more focus and concentration on your salat. Because you're not just reciting the same thing out of habit. That you begin to focus. Build these things with your salat, with your fasting. It builds your willpower. It builds your sabr, your patience. Those are the 5 habits we should gain. And when we gain this, when we have that patience, and I'm going to wrap up this speech with these points. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ test us. How our test is right now, only individually we know what our tests are. And you can reflect upon it now. You know what your test is. Begin to build that patience, that mental resilience and strength to build this. Because we do. So give good times to those people who are patient. إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. And hold fast to this statement. It is the value in which we operate, because you have to know what our value is. What is the value that you hold fast to? What is the end of all of this? What is the light at the end of the tunnel to all of your difficulties and trials that you will have? And life is going to be full of it. So we'll be back to Allah sometime. And that's our goal, to return back to Allah, to go through and travel through these difficulties to return back to Allah. And as we do, and as we make that effort, because being patient doesn't mean to be sitting and no. Being patient means that you have action. Sabrun in the face of musibah, sabrun ala ta'a, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sabrun ala sabrun, you're patient and not going towards that disobedience. You hold your nafs back, you are not to disobey Allah. And it's kind of interesting last one, because that hadith is a darajat, gives him, elevates him or her in paradise, which says the distance of their, you say their elevation, that how far, or that test that they're being patient in front of is from wherever they're at now to 300 degrees, or that measure between the heavens and earth. Your patience, your station will be 100 degrees. Then sabrun ala al-ma'siyah, your elevation will be 900 degrees. So again, sabr is action. It's not saying it's action. If we compare this, it's almost saying that yes, you're going to face trials and calamities, but that's not the most difficult thing. The degree is only 300. On obedience is 600. Patience in face of disobedience is 900. So build that mental set. And when we do, I'll close out with this, and this is from verse 156 of Surah Al-Baqarah, because the three verses we recited, it's 155, 156, excuse me, 157. So there's, of course, 155 and 156 are well known. Quite often we recite those, and we hear those a lot of times in the Majlis. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا قَالُوا إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. But the latter is not often mentioned, but it's important to understand because it is connected. Those individuals who are patient, those meaning that they are taking action to build this mental toughness and resilience to deal with the trials and calamities and tasks in their life. Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. That for those individuals, for the Sabirin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning Allah and the Malaika, the angels, those who are angelic realms, will pray for your success. So look at the coming, that's what it means. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ. Allah is, again, if we want to just put it in layman terms, Allah is your cheerleader. He's cheering you on. Yes, you can do it. The angels are cheering you on. Yes, you can do it. What greater support do you need than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels, that you're going through these difficulties and you're making your efforts and Allah is backing you. The angels are backing you. أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ. Because of course, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you that salawat, He's giving you dua. And of course, the angels are back. Why? How do we know this? The other verse in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. Just Allah giving salawat on the Nabi. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. And you see the mu'min who's walking in the footsteps of Muhammad, that they are pulling you towards this isma, towards this, again, purifying yourselves, towards having mental strength and resilience. And yes, we say, in the Muhammad, I could do something on the but we overlook this side. That Allah says, yes, if you're patient. And Imam Sadiq, he said it nicely with two of his companions. He says, فَصْبِرْ كَصَبْرِنَا. And be patient like we are patient. He says, if you want to understand patience, he says, be patient like we are patient. Have sabr. And when you do, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be praying for you. Angels will be praying for you. Send your salutations and blessings upon you. You can't compare to the salutations and blessings upon the Prophet, but nonetheless, the salutations of Allah and His angels will be upon you. And Allah's rahmah will be upon you. And as the result, once you do that, once you're patient, once the angels and Allah is backing you, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. Then you're guided. You're on that path that you should be. And this is a path that we see embodied in all of the becoming prophets. This is the much she was raised upon, that she followed. That even after seeing what happened in Karbala, after experiencing that tragedy, after experiencing imprisonment, being ushered to Kufa, to Sham, to Damascus, and then finally returning back home to Medina. They say that in Medina, Zainab al-Kubra sallallahu alayhi wa, you will see her at one moment, she is at the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, complaining to Rasulullah that Ya Rasulullah, banatuka usab, your daughters were taken prisoners. Your beloved Hussein, he was martyred. Sayyid al-Shabab. Zainab al-Kubra, also, she would go to the grave of Fatima al-Zahra. And of course, this would be at night. Only the Ahlul Bayt would announce this because no one knew where the grave was of Fatima al-Zahra. We see that the Zulma Bani Umayyah was to this great extent that even to there's the grave of Fatima al-Zahra, the most beloved daughter of Rasulullah. But Zainab, she would go there and also complain about what happened to the beloved Hussein, what happened to the women. She would establish the Majlis al-Azhar in Medina to the point that she would be exiled from Medina. And of course, there are many variations about what exactly happened, what were the circumstances of that exile, and how did it happen. Of course, some say that, again, as we also hear in the Marsi as well, that basically the Ahlul Bayt, Imam Zain al-Abidin and Zainab, they were back into captivity. They were arrested again and taken back towards Damascus. Some say no, she was just given an ultimatum to leave from Medina, to return, or to go wherever, any place but Medina, stay in Medina or to go to Mecca. In any case, Zainab al-Kubra, she found her way back to Damascus. And particularly a place where the Ahlul Bayt had been, when they were ushered into Damascus, they had a resting place there. And of course, if we know the city of Damascus, this is simply a little outside of Damascus, but now we call this place Zainabiyya. That she rested there at a tree, the tree where the head of Imam Hussein, they said that the head was there. According to some of the accounts that Darfisat Bibi Zainab ke upar hamle ho, that by this tree that she was attacked by Ibn Tamim. According to some narrations that Zainab, Bibi Zainab Darfisat Bintiti, over Hambar, Maduse Azza, that she sat by this tree and she began to read the Messiah of Karbala, that what happened in Karbala. That people were having that experience in Karbala, that what happened to Karbala, what pains in Sahabi Imam or Shaheed book. But one by one, they came to the battlefield and they were martyred. Habib ibn Mabahir, Muslim ibn Awsaj, poor Zuhair ibn Qayyim, she was mentioning this. She only looks at all right. Shaykh Ali Akbar, Barik Allah, Shaheed. that how Ali Akbar, he was martyred. Like a Rasul, who sounded most like Rasul, whose akhlaq was most like Rasulullah, so much so that they would say, whatever we long for my grandfather Rasulullah, that we will look towards Aliyah. The plains of Karbala. One brother who passed it, who was martyred in Karbala, Qasim bin Shu'ib Hubeh, the brother of Imam Hassan, the son of Imam Hassan, was martyred. But let me tell you one story about the life of Zainab, that what happened. Since we mentioned Imam Hassan, the son of Imam Hassan, they said that on his deathbed, he was being poisoned. They said that Imam Hassan, that he had called Imam Hussein into the room and he asked for a bucket. Imam Hassan said he was coughing up blood, so he took this bucket and his, as I say, jigger. When Imam Hassan heard that Zainab, she was coming just to visit Imam Hassan, Zainab was coming. He told Imam Hussein that, oh my brother, take this bucket and put it away. Zainab, that don't let our sister Zainab, don't let her see this blood that I have coughed out in this bucket. Imam Hassan didn't want Zainab to see the blood. He didn't want her to be affected by the blood. He had to spit up into the bucket. But on the day of Ashura, on the plains of Karbala, there will be no one that will protect the eyes of Zainab from the blood that she will see on the plains of Karbala. But what would she see on the plains of Karbala? She would see that on the plains of Karbala, do no harm. That one brother, his arms will be cut off. She will see that on the plains of Karbala, Hussein ko, khoon mein kabu qatl kiya gaya. You see our brother Hussein drenched in blood with arrow. She will see that her brother Hussein, that uska sar like Imam Hussein, that his head would be cut from the back, but it is easier to cut the head from the front. But he took the took the most difficult route and cut the neck of Imam Hussein from the back. اللهم بحق هذا المجلس الحسني وزينب اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشف مرضانا. To Allah by the right of this majlis for Imam Hussein and Zainab al-Kubra, forgive our sins and cover our shortcomings, cure those who are ill among our friends and family members, warham amwatana, and have mercy upon our deceased. وبالخصوص المرحومين سووا المجلس, especially for the marhamin of those who are hosting this majlis today. Please recite Safar for Ali Muhammad Musabi ibn Ismail Ali, Abi bin Nisa Bayham Binti Ali Raza, Mir Ali Abbas ibn Mir Mubarak Ali, Ali Abbas Musabi ibn Ali Ahmed Musabi, Aga Sayyid Ahmed Shah ibn Aga Hayat Shah, Sayyidah Fatima, Aga bint Sayyid Azizuddin, Javid Khushal Khan ibn Khushal Khan, for وبهم الفاتحة. بسم الله. اللهم ارحم أمواتنا خصوص الأموات المنظور معجل الفرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان وجعلنا وعلى سائر المستشرين بين يديه تحت رواية حق محمد وعلى إطلاقه معطي حسين.
Okay, I'm saying.
असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन ज़ैनब 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 वो वक्त असर वो मातल वो सोगवार फ़ज़ा नज़र के सामने भाई का कट रहा था गला तड़प रहा था बदन ज़ेरे तेब प्यासे का तड़प रहा था बदन ज़ेरे तेब प्यासे का धरती में बेफ़िग़ा शाह की बहन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन ज़ैनब न छूटा है भाई भी और मर चुके हैं बच्चे भी भी सर पे नहीं चल चुके हैं प्रेमे भी चले हैं कल्ब भी दामन भी और कुर्ते भी चले हैं कल्ब भी दामन भी और कुर्ते भी चली है छोड़ के भाई को बेकफन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम जवां का खत तो उसके दिल पे भाला था तो शबीर को संभाला था कदम जो खेमे से पहले कहल निकाला था कदम जो खेमे से पहले कहल निकाला था सहारा देने को की थी फिर मोहन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन तकरीर से जिहाद किया दिया है शाम के दरबार में कभी खुतबा कभी खामोशी से मज़लूमियत को नश्र किया कभी खामोशी से मज़लूमियत को नश्र किया कभी अली कभी ज़हरा कभी हसन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज सितम कैदिए महन ज़ैनब असीरे फौज हसन
चलो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना घर तुम ना हुए साथ तो घर तुम ना हुए साथ तो मर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना अच्छा में चली छोड़ कर जिंदा मेरे भैया करती हुई मातम तेरा पड़ती हुई ना सीने पे लिए सपने जिगर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना तुम खत में हुए बारी अजल मुझको नारी किस तरह मैं जिंदा हूँ न पूछो मेरे भाई ढूंढेगी तुम्हें अब तो जिधर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो रिहा कैद जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना भाई तेरे मजलूमी की खाती वो कसम है बाहर तेरे जिंदा से न रखूंगी कदम में जब तक ना बना तुमको घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना पैगामे ज़माने में तेरा वादे करूंगी भाई तेरे खातिर का जाने करूंगी सर करने से जुदा जिनका कर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जी खोल कर भाई में तुझे रो नहीं पाई अफसोस से तेरी लाश पे मैं नंगे सराई मालूम नहीं कहाँ से किधर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना शर्मिंदा हूँ मैं तुमको कफन दे तो कैसे आता मेरी दादी भैया मेरे सर पे इस रंज में दुनिया से गुजर जाएगी ज़ैना जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैना को मेरा मैं साथ तो मर जाएगी ज़ैना
करबला में आओ फुमाह यार कूफे में 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 करबला में दोनों जगह है दोनों जगह है ज़ैनब कूफे में करबला में आओ फुमाह कूफे में करबला में आओ फुमाह कूफे में करबला में लखते जिगर का मौला तुम ही ख्याल रखना लखते जिगर का मौला तुम ही ख्याल रखना लखते जिगर का मौला तुम ही ख्याल रखना गुजरेगी किस तरह जब कूफे में करबला में आओ फुमाह यार कूफे में करबला में आओ सर है यहाँ पे जख्मी सीना वहाँ है जलनी सर है यहाँ पे जख्मी सीना वहाँ है जलनी सर है यहाँ पे जख्मी सीना वहाँ है जलनी इंसानियत नहीं अब कूफे में करबला में आओ अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे आजाद हम से हो तब में करबला में आओ करबला में आओ करबला में जिनते अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे जिनते अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे अली के दिल पर क्या क्या पहाड़ टूटे आजाद गम से हो कब कूफे में करबला में आओ कूफे में करबला में आओ कूफे में करबला में बांधो क्या पड़ा है हसनैन की बहन के बांधो क्या पड़ा है हसनैन की बहन से बांधो क्या पड़ा है हसनैन की बहन के मिलते नबी कमल सब कूफे में करबला नजरें सूरज की न डाली जिसकी नजरें सूरज न डाली जिसकी नजरें सूरज ने भी न डाली ओ की गई मुखातब हुए में करबला मेरा ओ में करबला मेरा हो में करबला में दोनों जगह है ज़ैनब कूफे में करबला में
السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيد نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا سيد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بالفناء. عليك مني سلام الله يوم المعبد في طرف يديه والنهار ولا جعل الله أفرح مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم أيها الغرباء. السلام عليك المولى الزرقاء والكفراء. السلام عليك المغيث الشيعة والزوارق المجزاء. السلام عليك الحسن أجيب موسى الرضا كن شفيع وشفيع الوالدين في الجزاء. صلوا على آبائك السبع وابنة الأربع وقاتلك المعصومة من رحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا سادة الزمان. الأمان 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 السلام عليك يا أمة الزوجان والدولار تعالى فرجاك وصلاة على مخرجك وزهورك وجعلنا من صارك وأوانك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك وجدد الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة في كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك سوا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب جاء पंजतन पाक का सत्ता इस्लाम का दामन कभी शबीर से भर दे बच्चों को अता कर अल-यसर का तबस्सुम बूढ़ों को हबीब इब्न मुजाहिर की नजर दे कम से इनको मिलाए वल वलाए और मोहम्मद हर एक जवान को लिए बरकत कर दे माओ को उसका आसानी ज़हरा का सलीफा बहनों को सकीना की दुआओं का सर दे मौला तुझे ज़ैनब की असीरी की कसम है बेजुर्म असीरों को रिहाई की खबर दे जो चादर ज़ैनब के ज़ार मौला महफूज है ऐसे ख़वातीन के पर्दे जो दीन के काम आए वो औलाद अता कर जो मुझसे शबीर की खातिर हो कर दे मुफ्त और लाल जवाहिर के बारिश मखरूज का हर कर्ज गैब से कर दे हम कोई ना दे हमको सिवाय शबीर हम कोई ना दे हमको सिवाय शबीर शबीर का अम्मा कहा है तो दे शबीर तेरे पीर पे लाना
Q&A session starting right now without any break. Sisters can come in the backside and sit on the chairs. So please proceed fast so we can start the program right away, inshallah. It'll be only for an hour from 5:30 to 6:30. So please join us for the first and answer session live.